Life is beautiful, so make it last with vigor and vitality. Okinawa Life can help support a healthy and vital life and help you feel more energetic. An international team of researchers believe that the long life of Okinawans is due to their lifestyle and diet of fish and vegetables, such as an Okinawan turmeric called Zadori, a strange-looking Okinawan bitter melon called Goya, and soybeans. Okinawa Life is now available at Walgreens, Duane Reade, and other fine stores.
Hi, I'm Jeff Katz. Dolphin Carpet and Tile is a member of the largest buying group in the country with sales of over $1 billion. If you want value, come to Dolphin Carpet and Tile and get it right.
Dolphin Carpet and Tile, get it right.
President Obama, the Jake Tapper interview. CNN Friday on New Day and The Lead.
Time now for the ridiculous, and on the off chance you haven't been obsessively watching the Senate Foreign Relations Committee hearings with President Obama's ambassador nominees, let me fill you in. It may come as a surprise or not that in order to be an ambassador to a foreign country, one doesn't necessarily have to be super familiar with that country. Take Senator Max Baucus of Montana, nominee for U.S. ambassador to China.
Senator, I am no real expert on China.
No real expert on China. An aide for the senator says he was just being humble because that is the Montana way. I guess that makes sense, but to be honest, I'm no real expert on Montana, so what do I know? Surely, though, if you're going to be an ambassador to a country, you travel there at some point, right?
Soonest, have you been to Norway? I guess.
The guy who's going to be the ambassador in Norway hasn't been there. George Souness is his name. He's a businessman. He's nominated for the ambassadorship to Norway versus Senator John McCain, ambassador of SAS. It got pretty esoteric.
What do you think the appeal of the Progress Party was?
I will tell you, Norway has been very quick to denounce them.
The government has denounced them? They're part of the coalition of the government.
I stand corrected and would like to leave my answer at they are, it's a very, very open society.
I stand corrected. Look, not many businessmen would be able to intelligently discuss the political makeup of Norway's government. That's true, but they're not trying to be ambassador to Norway. I'm not sure Souness even Googled Norway. He made reference to the country's president, which, by the way, Norway does not have, and stumbled over just about everything else.
The heart of our in services, but there are important that we continue. Interesting.
I tied an onion to my belt. Interesting. You know, suddenly I have a great idea for a new U.S. ambassador to South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere, like such as...
Some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, like such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere like such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. or should help South Africa and should help the Iraq and the Asian countries.
It's only a matter of time before she's nominated. Look, I just want to see Senator John McCain do the interview portion in a Miss Teen USA pageant.
I have no more questions for this incredibly highly qualified group of nominees.
Senator John McCain putting the badass back in ambassador hearings on the ridiculous. That does it for this edition of 360. We'll see you again 1 hour from now at 10 p.m. Eastern, live edition of AC 360. Hope you join us. Piers Morgan Live starts now.
This is CNN Breaking News.
This is Piers Morgan Live. Welcome to our viewers in the United States and around the world. Tonight, breaking news. Another bombshell for Justin Bieber, mobbed as he arrived tonight in Toronto to face new assault charges over the beating of a limo driver. He's being questioned right now. Also tonight, my exclusive with legend Barry Gibb, the sole surviving member of the Bee Gees, talks for the first time about the tragedy of losing all three of his younger brothers, and he has some smart advice for young Mr. Bieber.
I just think it's time to grow up. Time to grow up and be what all these young girls love you. Be a good example.
Plus, the frozen south is bad enough when it snows in Atlanta, but when 2.5 inches brings the 9th largest city in America to a complete halt. You know, there's something badly wrong. I talked to one couple who had to give birth while stuck in traffic. Plus, a great night for Rudy Giuliani to be here. I'll ask the man known as America's mayor how big cities can be more prepared than Atlanta for whatever might happen. Plus, his take on the State of the Union and if New York is ready for the Super Bowl. I'm pretty sure he'll say that it is. I want to begin there with breaking news. Justin Bieber is facing assault charges in Toronto. This on top of his still pending dilemmas in California and Miami. Joining me now to try and breathlessly keep up is Nichelle Turner, CNN entertainment correspondent, as well as Michael Grieco, a criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor, and CNN legal analyst and former prosecutor Mark O'Meara. Welcome to all of you. OK, Nichelle, where the hell are we with Justin Bieber? It seems like almost every other day there is a new thing involving him and the law.
Well, it's funny because you said breathlessly trying to keep up, and you're right. I mean, I was kind of done for the night, and then all of a sudden this happens. It's the second time in a week we're talking about him and a run-in with the law. Now, here's what we know about this latest incident, Piers. This happened just a little bit ago in Toronto. We do know that Justin Bieber was there. He turned himself into authorities in connection with the assault of a limo driver. This happened more than a month ago. It was back on December 19th. He was at a Toronto Maple Leafs hockey game in the area, and this apparently happened after it. We also know that he was appearing with his attorney. His attorney hadn't been in touch with the authorities beforehand, so this was kind of a prearranged situation. So it seems like he may have even known about this at the time of the other things, but he now has 3 open cases hanging over his head. This is no joke, and it's no small thing for Justin Bieber anymore. This is really, I think, becoming a very serious problem.
Is it, or is it more a case of he is struggling to turn into a fully fledged adult? He wants to break away from squeaky clean Justin, and at the same time he's become a magnet for every police officer out there wants to make a name for themselves, because big questions are being asked about what went down in Florida. It may be now that his DUI charge was based on, according to the police reports, but now being leaked, the fact that he was actually under the legal limit. He may have been okay on that. We don't know yet, but you know, again, the limo driver, are these people now looking for their piece of fame? Is that an accurate question to ask?
It's interesting that you asked that, because there are definitely 2 schools of thought here. And on the situation in Miami, we can tell you that they did plead not guilty to all of those charges today. His attorney did. So they are going to fight that. It could likely go to a jury trial in this situation. And you're right. When the test came back from the DUI, it showed that his breathalyzer was a .014, which is even lower than the legal limit for an underage person.
Which is already very, very low. I mean, much lower than for an adult.
And the GPS on the car that he was driving in Miami did come back. The owner of that exotic car company where he rented the car from said that the GPS showed 15 minutes before the arrest that the car was not going more than 55 miles an hour. So there are some things that come into question. And could it be? Yes, but could it also be that Justin is a kid with a lot of money, a lot of fame, and making some pretty poor decisions right now? I mean, that could very well be
to be fair to him, because I like the Biebs, is he making decisions that most kids of his age would be making if they suddenly came into huge fame and money?
And
how serious is it? Well, let's go to the lawyers, because you guys can assess whether, from a legal perspective, he's spiraling out of control in a serious manner, or whether we're all making a bit too much of this. Michael Grieco, you actually consulted with Bieber's team last week after the arrest in Miami. I do find what's happened down there quite fascinating, because serious questions, I think, should be asked now of the police and their behaviour over this, shouldn't they?
Well, you've got a DUI allegation. You're talking about a breath reading that's under the legal limit, which is .02. But you also have an allegation that he made statements that he had smoked marijuana that night, that he was under the care of a physician, or that he was taking prescription drugs at the time. That's a bad cocktail. And that's what leads to impairment. So there's 2 theories in which one can be prosecuted for DUI, either being over the legal limit, or alternatively being impaired, or alternatively on a third option, which is to be under the influence of drugs. So they've got 3 options in which they want to go forward on the DUI. And I personally know the officers on this case, and they are experienced officers. They've made hundreds of DUI arrests. So I don't know about these allegations of it being that flimsy a case.
OK, Mark O'Meara, let's take the whole Bieber legal actions into a totality and address the issue of his potential deportation from the United States, because there is an official White House petition on the official side. I know all about these because there was one that was lodged about me to have me deported, and the President Obama had to spring to my rescue. But he's actually got even more than I had now. He's got over 130,000 signatures, which means the White House will be compelled to respond. Is there a serious risk here of Bieber being deported?
Well, Justin Bieber is sort of a criminal light right now. I think he needs to get control of himself, and those people who are advising him need to tell him to get his act together. But egging a house, not particularly serious. I'm not sure how you cost $20,000 with an egg unless it's gold paint signed by Peter Max, but
or a massive egg, yeah.
Yeah, that's not too bad. The event with the assault and the limo driver, that could be an opportunity thing. The DUI down in South Florida, I would not be too concerned about if I was Roy Black for a couple of reasons. One, it's less than a .02, not much alcohol. I agree with Mike, the fact that there may be a dangerous cocktail of marijuana and prescription drugs could make it much more serious. But understand this, even if all of that existed in Florida, in Dade County where this was, there's a thing called back on track, which is a way to get rid of the DUI, even if it is a legitimate DUI, do some community service, do some counseling, and then it's off your record. So even with that, not much there. Bieber is not going to get deported because of these three events, no matter how many hundreds of thousands of people want to get on board with that. But he does need to sort of get control of his people, because he has a great opportunity. The opportunity here is he can tell his fans, those 15 and 16-year-olds, this is not the way to act. Don't go driving. Don't go drinking and driving. Don't egg houses you don't need to, and be careful with the people around you. And I think he could really take this as an opportunity to make something of himself. Look, doing 55 miles an hour in a Lamborghini, that's first gear. So that's not all that serious an event, but he does need to wake up.
Right. I mean, Nichelle, this goes back to my sense about this, which is that if you take any of these individual things and you look at the mitigating circumstances, you've got a young kid with loads of money and fame, a lot of pressure and everything else, behaving in quite a naughty way, I guess. Chucking eggs around is a bit silly, and he's in a Lamborghini, but not going dramatically fast. The DUI seems to be very low levels of alcohol. I can't help but think that everywhere this kid's going right now, there is a circus around him, which is generating its own heat.
Oh, you just saw the video tonight of him turning himself into Toronto. I think you're exactly right with that. There is something to be said here for a boy that's growing into a man and that is trying to find himself. I do agree with you on that. I know he just did his last in-depth interview he did was back in November of 2013. That was with the Hollywood Reporter. And at that point, he said, you know what, I'm happy with the man that I'm becoming. His manager, Scooter Braun, said, look, he's got to make his own mistakes. He's going to make some mistakes. We've got to let him make some mistakes. And I think they're right. If you look at all of these incidents separately, they are kind of small. But when they happen in this short of time frame and we keep seeing things over and over again, then you get kind of worried about a kid, because what happens if he makes not a little bad decision, but he makes...
Well, it's very interesting. I mean, tonight I've got an amazing interview with Barry Gibb, who's the last surviving member of the Bee Gees. He actually is the oldest of the brothers. He lost 3 of his brothers. 2 were in the Bee Gees. 1, Andy, died when he was 30. And the parallels that he draws between Justin Bieber and the trajectory he's taking and his brother Andy is fascinating, even down to having wild animals, you know, monkeys and so on and stuff. He saw that happen with Andy, and he saw Andy die at 30. And he is very concerned about Justin Bieber, so I recommend you'll stick around and watch that. But for now, Nichelle, Michael, Mark, thank you all very much indeed. Don't forget to watch Nichelle's special. It's a great show, this. Justin Bieber's Wild Ride tonight at 11:30 right here on CNN. Everybody is talking about the Biebs tonight. But now Atlanta, an unprecedented storm leads to gridlock nightmares and lots of finger-pointing. And yet there's a silver lining in the middle of all this. And despite being stuck in traffic during the storm, Nick and Amy Anderson gave birth to a baby girl, and they join me now. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks, Piers.